So we're just going to look at some of the basic modelling features inside of Enterprise Studio. As you can see here, I have the screen open in the background. What I'm going to do then is just go to the Backstage view, click New, and here I see all of the model choices I've got. Again, all of these just come out of the box. In this case, we're going to do an Archimate model. You'll see against each of these model types there are sometimes some examples that you can use to get you started or give you some orientation. Here though, we're just going to create an empty model with a total view. And inside of my model package now, I can see I've got an Archimate model. That Archimate model has one total view in it, which is what we see over here on the canvas to the right hand side. But for the example, I am going to create a new view. I can see here I can create a total view, or I can create any of the other view types that the tool supports. We're just going to focus on the core of the Archimate here, and I'm going to go to create a new business, and we're going to do a business process cooperation view. Give it a name, and then inside that view I can see that the stencil, the set of shapes and objects and relations I'm allowed to put in, is actually a subset of the shapes and objects and relationships I'm allowed to put in the total view. To create an object then, I can simply select the object type I like. I know that's a business process. If I right click on this canvas, I can actually see the object name as well as the object shape. But I'm going to create a business process here, and I'm going to call that business process handle claim. And having created the process in the view, I can come over here to the model browser on the left hand side, and I can see that the handle claim object has been created inside of the model. What that means though is if I went to, for example, total view, I can simply reuse that object by dragging it into the other viewpoint. So back to this viewpoint, there are other things I can do. So if I wanted to create an application service, I can click and I can create. The alternative is I can do a long press, and the long press then allows me to add any of the permitted object types in this particular type of view onto the view as well. So here I'm going to put an application service, and if I wanted to, I can add others by clicking, dragging, by reusing from the model package itself, or by doing a hard press and selecting objects in this way. Another neat trick is for any given object, if I do a new inside, that will create an object within that object, and it will nest it in the model browser as well. Another thing I can do is I can do new multiple. So here, if I said I wanted to do multiple business processes, I then have a choice to add different attributes and properties I might want to put in. Here I've already added the documentation attribute. What this gives me then is a simple interface where I can do copy and paste. If I just go to my desktop and open up this processes document, here are some I made earlier, and I can select those processes, and I can simply cut and paste that in, press OK, and what the tool has done in the background is it's created each of those processes, but if I navigate handle claim, what I see, it's also created the composition relationship to say that these processes are sub-processes of the handle claim process. A couple of other neat tricks then. I have a magic connector or a smart connector. If I click that and then I move across to my next process step, it then allows me to pick a relationship between these objects, and that is constrained to what is allowed on the viewpoint and what is permitted by the specification. So there is no need to do retrospective checks on whether your model is correct or not. You're not allowed to create incorrect models in the first place. Here I want to do a triggering relationship. Actually, I'd like to be able to see it, so I'm just going to make each of these processes smaller. So if I select that and I do a Control-E, that selects similar. And then I want to make all of those sub-processes the same size. Okay, and it just makes it a little bit easier for me then to put these relationships in and make it visible and easy to follow. Moving on, there's a couple of other things I can do inside of the interface as well. So we've seen how we can drag objects on, how we can use the long press to create objects. There is another little trick we can do here. We have these arrows on each side of the object. If I press that arrow, it will give me a choice of objects then I can relate to this object. So in this context, what I'd like to do is create a role, and that role I want to be assigned to this process. And the role there is insurance. And I can, if I want to again, then assign that to an actor or whatever else might be permitted. And again, that may be an assignment following the rules of the specification. And then I can create my actor in the same way. So what we've just seen there then is how we can reuse objects inside the model, how we can create multiple objects, how we can nest and build those relationships in, how we can use the constraints of the viewpoint to put an object in that's appropriate to the viewpoint, and how we can use the handles on each side of this object to actually build new objects and relationships to those objects as well.